Here, my camera cut off for all the other classes, so I'm kind of just doing a summary of this problem. You all did it in class though, so you should know anyway. Please, I'm trying to talk to the other classes. So we talked about all the different numbers. We know the price of the camera was $570, and she has to have more than or equal to that number. We said, okay, well, we know the variable, which I think this was on film. We know the variable is just a question, whatever question we're answering, which is how many weeks. We said in our, am I in camera? Yeah.
Each.
So in our problem, it says each or per in that problem?
Each.
It says $50 each week. Well, that tells us right there that that's the variable cost part, or the rate of change part of this problem. So we know 50 has to be multiplied by the number of weeks. We know the one-time cost is this 80, because we only have to pay that out once. It isn't based on the weeks. So we have our equation set up. As you missed, Tadrea told us that she just figured out, well, we know that she has to earn $650, because if she doesn't earn at least $650, she won't have enough after she subtracts 80. So we just said, okay, well, what number subtract 80 would be 570? That's how Tadrea did it. But without even knowing it, she actually did step 4. Because step 4 says start with the term without your variable. So we start with this term over here. We ignore the variable for right now. And we do the opposite operation to get rid of that. And then if we do it over there, we get 650. So really you solved the first step of the equation without
We both got the
thinking about
answer.
it.
I know the answer. I know the answer.
Well, how do I do it? Then solve it for me. Keep going.
Here you go. Alright, so now you bring the 50 down, right? Okay.
So
And
now
so then you divide it by the 50.
So if for those of you again using your sheets, we're on step 5. They're telling me step 5 says you got to divide by the coefficient, which in this case is 50.
And so then x equals 13.
And then once you divide that, you get x all by itself.
Greater than x. Yeah.
So she has to save for at least 13 weeks. She could save for longer and still buy it. That's why the greater than is there, but she has to save for at least 13 weeks. So again, your credit on this test is not based on that, because anybody can remember x is greater than 13. Your answer is based on all of this stuff.
So
before.
wait, so we're not allowed to put the answers on the test?
No, you put the answer still, but I don't want people to just write x is greater than or equal to 13.
I can do that.
Well, I hope everybody can, especially since it's going to be posted. Yes, ma'am.
Can I start doing it my way? I find that way much easier than...
You do it. Can I show you the way you do it? Because I love this way.
Can you show me?
Are you talking about like
How I did it, like I just thought of it
to solve it, right?
Yeah, I just like...
Here's what you're really doing when you're doing that, and some of you may like this way better. If we go back to this problem right here, we actually solved some of these in the beginning of the year, I think. So if we go back to this right here, is this right? Yeah, actually that right pretty well. So you remember when I used these little question mark things? So I said, well, let's think about how to solve this. If I know, so I want to solve and get the x.
Yep.
And I know this is 570. I know that this number right here, whatever it is, like I don't know what this number is right there. It's a question mark. I don't know what this whole term is right there. But I know I'm going to subtract $80 from it, right? So I need to know, well, what number subtract 80 would give me 570? That's what you did in your head. Oh, no, what you do?
Okay, I'll try to tell you doing it. Okay, so all I did was, if I even did a number, I wouldn't have did it like that, but that's not what I did. I just took the one number that you covered up. You should have covered up the number. The 570, you should cover that one up. So then when you do the 80, you just...
I think you're doing the same thing I'm talking about.
Yeah,
It may
you do
just
it, but
in your
my head's different.
Yeah, I don't care how you think about it, but you're using a very intuitive way to solve it, which is fantastic. A lot of people do that in my classes, and I like that. That actually helps you a lot on tests, because then if you get stuck, and it's a little different. So what we're talking about is, again, if I'm solving for x, I can go through the step-by-step process, or I can say, well, wait a minute. I know this term underneath here, whatever term it is, whatever number that is, it's got to equal 570 after I subtract 80 from it. Well, what number is going to equal 570 once I subtract 80 from it? That's what Andrea said earlier was 650. So I know whatever's underneath this has to be 650. So now I can just say, okay, well, I know it's got to be 650. What was underneath there? Well, underneath there was 50x. All right, so I know 50x has to be greater than or equal to 650. So now I do the same thing. All right, well, what number divided by 50 would give me, I'm sorry, what number times 50 would give me 650? So I would say, all right, well, what number times 50 gives me 650? You can just plug and play until you get 13 eventually. That's a little harder to do, though, if you don't have integers as the answer. What's that?
What are these